Hello again, and in this particular part of the lecture what I am going to be talking about is what is called the K dot P perturbation theory. This is a method of calculating effective masses from energy band theory. So, what is K dot P perturbation theory? To understand what is K dot P perturbation theory, we know that the eigenstates of a crystal satisfy the Bloch's theorem. That means psi k of r satisfies psi k r plus r n is equal to e to the power I k dot r n psi k of r, where r n is direct lattice translation vector. Given this, it is possible to write psi k of r in the following fashion. I can always write psi k of r as equal to e to the power I k dot r u k of r, where u k of r satisfies the periodicity of the lattice. U k of r plus r n is equal to u k of r, and with this condition, then the Bloch state, the state psi k of r written as above satisfies Bloch's theorem. Now, when we are doing energy band calculation, what we are doing is the following. That is, we are solving the problem h psi k of r is equal to E k psi k of r, where h is equal to minus h cross squared by 2m del squared plus v of r. Now, let us see the following. That is, I will apply this Hamiltonian on my state psi k of r written in the form of e to the power I k dot r times u k of r. So, if I do that, I will have the following: minus h cross squared by 2m del squared operating upon e to the power I k dot r u k r will give me the following. That is, let me look at it this way: del operating upon e to the I k dot r u k of r gives me e to the I k dot r del u k of r plus u k of r I k e to the power I k dot r. Now, if I look at del squared operating upon e to the I k dot r u k of r, what I will get is del operating on this. So, I will get I k e to the I k dot r del u k of r plus e to the I k dot r del squared u k of r plus I k e to the I k dot r del uk of r plus minus k squared uk of r e to the I k dot r. So, minus h cross squared by 2m del squared e to the I k dot r uk of r will give me the following. I will have minus h cross squared by 2m 2 I k e to the I k dot r del uk of r plus h cross squared k squared by 2m uk of r e to the I k dot r, and then I will have the term which will have del squared, that is e to the minus h cross squared by 2m del squared uk of r into e to the power I k dot r. So, I can stick it into the Schrodinger equation. If I did that, I will have minus h cross squared by 2m del squared plus v of r e to the I k dot r uk of r is equal to e k e to the power I k dot r uk of r. So, this will give me, I can cancel out e to the I k dot r, and what I will be left with would be the following: h cross squared k squared by 2m uk of r, and then I will have minus h cross squared by 2m 2 I k grad uk of r. This will become plus sorry, this will still be minus, and then I will also have the term which is minus h cross squared by 2m del squared uk of r is equal to e k uk of r. Now, what I will do is the following: I will use the fact that minus I h cross del is equal to p, that is the operator for the linear momentum. So, that I will have h cross squared k squared by 2m minus h cross squared by m. So, it will become plus, because minus I goes with the definition of the momentum operator. So, I will have plus h cross squared by m k dot p, and the last term is minus h cross squared by 2m. Oh, then I also have another term here which I forgot, plus v of r uk of r. Okay, del squared uk of r plus v of r uk of r is equal to e k uk of r. Or I have the following, that is, I can write it as minus h cross squared by 2m del squared, okay, plus h cross squared by m k dot p plus v of r uk of r plus h cross squared, or I can take the h cross squared k squared by 2m. I have a uk of r here, a uk of r here, So, I can take the h cross squared k squared by 2m onto the other side is equal to E k minus h cross squared k squared by 2m u k of r. So, this is the Schrodinger equation that I will get for u k of r. It is quite simple, it is just substitution and some algebraic manipulation. So, what we can actually do is we can treat this k dot p term as a perturbation. To obtain the energies. Okay. So, this is actually known as k dot p perturbation theory. So, if we want to get the energy at any k value, what we need to do is carry out the perturbation calculation. So, if I carry out the perturbation calculation, then correct to second order, I can write the energy as the following: E k correct to second order will be h cross squared k squared by 2m plus h cross squared by m k dot u k p u k plus sigma or n prime not equal to n h cross squared by m, and then I will have the state which is n k dot p n prime k dot p n divided by E n minus E n prime. So, where I can put the band index here n and k and n prime k. So, what I have actually done, let me explain to you. What I have done is we assume that there are several bands. So, wave function is actually given by psi k comma n r is equal to e to the power I k dot r u n comma k r. Okay. Usually one writes down n comma k. So, n is the band index and k is the wave vector. So, when I want to carry out these calculations, what I am doing is, for the first order I have k dot u n k p u n k, and the second order, when I say n and n prime, this is n is equal to u n k. Okay, so, that is the notation that I have used, and when I use that, I can write down the second order perturbation energy in the form E k 2 is equal to h cross squared k squared by 2m plus h cross squared by m k dot u n k p u n k plus sigma over n prime not equal to n h cross squared by m n k dot p n prime k dot p n. Okay. So, because I am basically doing the calculation for a given k, and since k is fixed, the only states that I am going to be looking at are the states which have different band indices. So, if I write down the following, that is, if I write down u n k p u n k as p n n, the matrix element, then and analogously u n k p u n prime k as p n n prime, then I can write down my energy correct to second order as Ek2 is equal to h cross squared k squared by 2m plus h cross squared by m k dot p n n plus h cross squared by m sigma over n prime not equal to n p n n prime p n prime n divided by E n minus E n prime. Notice that I have dropped the subscript k for my states u and k because I am fixing k. Now, if I am at a minimum, if I am at a minimum in the energy band, the linear term is absent. That is either at a valley or at a minima or a maxima in the energy band, you will see that the linear term is vanishing. So, if I look at one of those points, then at that point the second order energy is given by h cross squared k squared by 2 into 1 by m here I have a k dot p. Because of the k dot p, I must have had a k squared here, which I had left out, 1 by m plus sigma over n prime not equal to m p n n prime p n prime n divided by E n minus E n prime. Well, even here I have to be a little more careful because the quantities p n n prime are vectors. So, if I consider them as vectors, then I have E2k is equal to h cross squared k squared by 2 into 1 by m times delta ij plus sigma over n prime not equal to n p n n prime I p n prime n j divided by E n minus E n prime, and this is what I will get for the energy, second order energy, or I can say that the quantity one by m delta ij plus sigma over n prime not equal to n p n n prime I p n prime n j divided by E n minus E n prime can be considered to be equal to 1 upon m I j. So, what we have is we have obtained a form of the energy for at one of the maxima or minima in the energy bands as a quadratic in k squared, and because it is a quadratic in k, or it is quadratic in k, or it is dependent on as k square, we can define effective mass which is given by this expression. So this n and n prime of course are various bands. So what we are actually saying is the following, that is, we have a whole bunch of bands. I have a band here, a band here, another band here, another band here, so forth. So somewhere around some value of k, I want to find out what the effective mass is. Then what I have to do is I have to look at these states at the same value of k in different bands. So this is n equal to 1, n equal to 2, n equal to 3, n equal to 4, n equal to 5, and so on and so forth. So what I have to do is I have to look at these functions here and then calculate the momentum matrix elements of these and the energy gap between the two bands at the k position and sum over this quantity. So if I did this summation, then I will get the effective mass 1 upon m star ij, and this is what is usually done. So this is a neat way for calculating effective masses. From band structure. So what does a band structure give? The band structure basically gives me uk of r is what is given by the band structure. uk r is obtained from band structure. So you compute the matrix elements of the momentum using uk of r and you construct these sums, then you will get the effective mass. Sometimes what happens is people try to obtain the effective mass, just estimate it. Okay, one can easily estimate the effective mass simply by looking at estimate the effective mass by knowing the band gap to the lowest excited band. So what we mean by that is, if I know the energy gap here, which is delta or Eg, then I should be able to calculate it as effective mass as 1 by m star is equal to 1 by m plus p n n prime squared divided by delta times h cross squared by m. Usually p n n prime is of the order of a lattice constant. And delta is usually of the order of about maybe 0.2 to 1.0 electron volts in semiconductors. So if one is looking at these, then what one gets is 1 by m star is equal to 1 by m plus h cross squared by m, h cross squared a squared by m times 1 upon delta, and h cross squared a squared by m is roughly of the order of about maybe 10 electron volts. You can actually stick in the constants and get it, and it is about 10 electron volts. So one can estimate 1 by m star can be estimated, and 1 by m star turns out to be of the order of is for some cases you can show the estimate to be about 100 or m star to be about 0.01 mass of the electron, for delta about 0.2 eV. So, this is one of the simple ways of actually obtaining the effective mass of a semiconductor once its energy band structure is solved for. And what I am going to be doing in the next few lectures is to study methods of calculating energy bands. Already we have seen two methods. One of them is a single band tight binding method we saw. That is what we started with in this course, where we studied 1s orbitals of hydrogen atoms coming together and overlapping to give you a band, and how one can get the dispersion of this single band tight binding model. So, this one will generalize to many bands and real solids, and see how the energy bands dispersion varies when you go from one solid to the other. And we also did another one in this thing, which is a nearly free electron model. So, in the nearly free electron model itself, what we can do is we can actually use plane waves as a basis, and obtain band structure. Only problem with that one is these plane waves are extremely poor representation of the atomic wave functions. So, when you are using a plane wave basis and trying to solve the Hamiltonian of the energy band, or by setting up the Hamiltonian matrix in the plane wave basis, then you will see that the plane wave basis that you need are thousands and thousands to get good energy values, and even then the convergence is only really good only for a few low energy states and not for the high energy states. So, it is only of academic interest to know about the plane wave basis and for obtaining the energy band calculations. But then there are other kinds of energy band techniques which correct for these things, which are known as the orthogonalized plane wave methods, or the OPW method, and then you also have methods such as pseudo potential methods, and most popularly used methods are the augmented plane wave method. And of course, you also have another method which is related to the augmented plane wave method, in the sense that it uses the same potentials as the augmented plane wave method, and that is the Green's function method, or the KKR or the KKRZ method. So, we will discuss some of these methods and look at how energy band structure can actually be obtained in solids. And once we are through with that part of the energy band calculations, then we go to a few other things like semiconductor statistics, and then going beyond energy band theory, strongly correlated solids, and so forth. So, it will the lectures will we will develop the lectures as we go along, and I would like to thank you for your attention. So, we will meet again later. Bye.